Let's consider the section under campaigns called recommendations. Now, as a general rule, you should be very, very skeptical when any advertising platform, including YouTube, starts to make recommendations because often what they're doing is they're going to advise you to do things that are in their best interest, not necessarily in yours. So, those are going to be things like spend more money, reach more people. Sometimes that's in your best interest, but a lot of the time it isn't. The other thing to keep in mind is that platforms often want people to stay on their platforms. Is that in your best interest? Some cases, in some cases not. Sometimes you want to drive people off the platform to your website, to your landing page, etc. So you have to keep in mind that being skeptical is very important to get the best results. So let's take a look at some of the recommendations that are showing up in one of my campaign managers here. Try the new Google Ads mobile app. Okay, that sounds fine. Reach additional customers on partner sites and apps. Now, I think that this would be useful if you're properly optimizing for something hard like conversions. But if you're doing awareness, I would I'd be very cautious about doing something like this because there is a lot of junk inventory that platforms are going to try to stuff you in and make it look like you're getting tons of impressions, but the viewability may be low, the quality of those websites may be low. So I tend to stay away from that when I'm doing brand marketing, when I'm doing awareness advertising, when I'm doing reach campaigns. Upload customer match lists. So this can be a very effective way to advertise to current customers. However, there are easier, cheaper ways to reach your customers through things like email, through your customer success managers, etc. So is that really worth your time? Well, if you want to make the metrics look good and go after low-hanging fruit, then sure. But if we do look at empirical research from the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, we see that marketing's principal job to drive growth is new customer acquisition. A lot of people think it's customer loyalty, but there's been a lot of evidence to suggest that investing in things like loyalty programs really doesn't pay off. And even when they do pay off in rare cases, there's a very low ceiling on how much you can get. So your focus on YouTube will probably be new customer acquisition. So this may not be the best thing to do for you. However, uploading a custom list perhaps could be effective in some cases when you're trying to go after a very specific group of people and it's hard to target them otherwise. Finish setting up conversion tracking. That's going to be excellent to see where your conversions are coming from, especially at the bottom of the funnel. Raise your budget. So, in some cases, that's going to make sense. In some cases, what it's going to do is it just means that your frequency goes too high and you're reaching the same people over and over. That's why it's important to monitor frequency to make sure that you're reaching incremental people, additional people, not just the same people over and over. Now, reaching the same people over and over by increasing the budget in some cases is going to be good. If you're trying to get short-term results, if those buyers are in market, if you can afford to advertise to them multiple times because perhaps the purchase price is pretty high, then fine. But in a lot of cases, you don't want to raise your budget. Instead, what you want to do in general best practice with marketing, video advertising, etc., is to spread your marketing evenly throughout the year rather than concentrating it in a certain period. Now, there are going to be cases where you do want to raise your budget considerably, and that's when you're marketing an entertainment product like a book or a movie or a video game where in cases where most of the sales are going to be immediately after launch or shortly around that launch period, that's going to be important. Raising your budget around critical seasonal times, so landscaping during the summer, Black Friday if you're selling electronics, things like that. That makes sense. But in general, you just want to spread your budget evenly throughout the year, and whether you need to increase that budget overall is really up to you. It's not up to YouTube.